be better?
Doesn't matter.
Okay.
All right. Let's do a sound check. Check for me, Erik.
Check. Check.
All
Good.
right. Good. Actually, your screen on gives you a bit more illumination.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I can turn this up a little bit too. That's pretty loud.
All right, welcome everybody to CanHammer TV. This is July, my watch is one day forward, 14th, I believe. This is Custodes Tactica episode 29, not as posted 28, because I did 28 last night. This is episode 29, and we welcome people on the stream already. See Farsight as normal, Sazneg, Cortilius, Black Ice, Striker, Sean, Chris Marshall, everybody welcome. And we have special guest on tonight. We got Erik Trock back in the house. There he is.
How are you, everybody?
With the trademark flag.
Yeah.
So this is a different room you're in than the last time, but
yeah.
You have to have the trademark in the back.
Back.
All right. So for those of you who maybe don't know or don't recognize Erik, before he took a little break from 40K, so last summer?
Time I played was Nova.
Yeah, that's right. And I last saw you at Capital City Bloodbath last year. You was rocking the Foot Custodes for a long time. And in the summer of Knights and Triple Caladius, Erik rocked up to CCPB with a battalion and 12 Aquilon Terminators and went undefeated and came in second just on the virtue of I think it was just soft scores, basically. So...
yeah.
So that was an amazing performance, and I think I last interviewed you maybe a couple weeks after CCBB last year.
Yeah, we did that one, and we did an interview before LVO as well.
That's right. Okay, and then you took a little break from the game, right in time for the Marine meta, and you are back. So what brought you back, Erik?
I just like 40K. It's a fun game to play. I've got some time to hobby right now. So,
were you sucked back in by the new book and the new edition?
It was definitely a welcome surprise. I knew the book was coming out, but the new edition was totally a surprise to me. So,
okay.
Actually, I think 8th is better for Custodes just because of the first floor blocks line of sight ITC rule, but 9th will be really interested to learn a new rule set and get used to that and figure that out.
Yeah, I think if you have good terrain, actually, so far in the games I've played, the terrain is fine. It's perfectly fine, and actually, it's slightly more tactical. But if you have bad terrain, then you're going to rely more on these new rules to protect you for sure. So we'll see. I mean, everybody's going to have to adapt what they have to the new situation, and hopefully we don't end up with a whole bunch of different comps and stuff again, because that's kind of defeat the purpose. But we'll see how that goes. So what do you we're just going to dive straight into it, Erik. What do you think of our new book?
Basically everything that we had trouble with, we no longer have trouble with. I think it's so incredible, like almost to the point of being overpowered, where we can just have a unit not die, like any unit that we need to not die, because of the arcane genetic alchemy, where they only wound on 4s, and then Emperor's Allspice, like no rerolls or anything like that, and then the other one for Terminators, I forget what that one's called, but it's the no -1 and no -2 AP.
Yeah.
That's 4 CP, and then their shooting just does nothing the entire round.
Yeah, we like to call the deny rerolls one the Emperor's Old Spice now. Like, he's got some deodorant, denies rerolls.
Yeah, let me check and see what that new one is. All right, so this is what I wanted to show you before I was talking about. I made this book, and I put all the Custodes Psychic Awakening rules in it.
Nice.
Like, printed on this thick paper. I got all the Inquisition rules. I got all the Sisters of Silence and the Assassins. So all the talents of the Emperor and all that stuff in this This dope with this dope cover.
Yeah, I made this ghetto one out of a PDF that George made on the Discord, but it's just easier to just have it all in like a little sheaf of
Yeah.
paper.
Yeah, I've got all the PD. I got the PDF, but like I love a tactile book. Like I've got the legit. Oh, nice, very cool.
Yeah, I didn't want to carry around a book with like Fabius Bile and Death Guard shit in it. Like it just felt
Exactly.
wrong, you know.
Or
So
with Fabius Bile and Death Culture. That was a factor for me.
all right, so you wanted
And
to,
Antium, which is the coolest name for a stratagem we have.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
We just call it AAA now because it's just shorter.
So
But
that-
people started to use all these abbreviations in the chat, and it's like, I don't know what these abbreviations mean, guys. Like, for now, you have to use like the real words, or maybe just quote the rule. I can't really remember the names yet.
As much as it's like it's easier to just say I'm gonna do like transhuman or whatever the Space Marine is one. I love making the Custodes their own and talking about their lore and their feel as much as possible. So putting the name, like saying the names of the stratagems, is a lot of fun for me.
Yeah, I'm definitely trying to make an effort in last week's game to use the actual names of the stratagems. And we'll see how long that lasts for, but
Yeah.
it's certainly cool. And I actually went through and read all the little fluff on top of the stratagem, which is really cool because it's a lot of fluff that sometimes you don't find elsewhere. It's just on the top of the little stratagems. It's pretty cool. Okay, so you wanted to talk about your thoughts on all the shield hosts. And
Yeah.
why don't you tell us about your thoughts on shield hosts?
All right, we can go through them. We can just go through them one by one. So you tell me, like I'm kind of a little bit out of the loop. So why don't you tell me about what people think are good and what, like, because I know Dreadhost, like everyone thinks Dreadhost is incredible and overpowered and all this. So tell me the rationale about that, and then we can go through the rest of them.
Okay, well,
'Cause everybody hear about Dreadhost.
yeah, so straight out the bat, and because it was a kind of thing that they previewed, Dreadhost was like, seemed to be obviously powerful because it addressed our getting into combat issue, 9-inch charge issue. And so a lot of people gravitated towards Dreadhost as the first obvious source of power. And it also had the 3 damage axe, and it had exploding 6 aura. So it had a bunch of things that were like, oh, this is really cool. And, we hate D3 damage. 3 damage axe was like, oh my God. But the Discord is a little bit more progressive than your average Custodes player, I guess. And people started to very quickly experiment with almost all the other hosts. I would say that Emissaries, which I think you're going to talk to us about, is probably the least talked about one on the Discord, but Shadow Keepers is really popular. Some people have tried the Aquiline Shield. Lots of people are playing Solar Watch. I've actually not even played a single game with Dreadhost. I just gravitated immediately to things like Shadow Keepers and stuff. So that's kind of what's floating around right now. People are talking about G-Man lists. People are talking about Land Raiders, obviously. So there's lots of stuff going around the Discord right now. So it's a pretty cool place to be.
Yeah, I just got in it, as you know. I haven't like kept up with the conversations, but definitely like seeing a few things here and there. Definitely a lot of good ideas. So anybody who's trying to get into a Custodes chat, it's a good one.
Yeah. The Discord name just
intentional at all. There's a lot of different ideas and a lot of different strategies being talked about.
Yeah. For some reason, the Discord link disappeared. There it is. Boom, right below Erik there. Join us. Yeah. So, what are your thoughts on the shield hosts?
So we'll talk about emissaries last because that's gonna be fun.
All right.
So Shadow Keepers. I like Shadow Keepers a lot because there's a lot of stacking that can be done with a -1 strength. Like -1 strength in and of itself isn't amazing, but with the half damage to Dreadnoughts, -1 strength on a Telemann, I think is like, if you're going to take a Telemann and you can afford to get a Shadow Keepers, you should use Shadow Keepers for the Telemann, because how many things are strength 8 that are going to be like very like attacking the Telemann,
Yeah.
That those are the things that are going to, because the Telemann, I feel like a lot of people want to use the Telemann to stand there, walk in front of the characters, block, and just like be the thing that blocks for characters. So if you're going to use it that way, instead of using it like in the back as like Jeff did, because it doesn't even have that range anymore, so you can't really do that. It's going to be in range of most of the things that your opponents are going to be shooting at it. So getting that -1 strength, I mean, how many things are strength 4, or how many things are like strength 5 shooting at the Telemann? Then they're going to be wounded on 6s, or strength 8, they're going to be wounded on 5s instead of 4s. Or even things like las cannon, strength 9, you're going to be wounding a las cannon on a 4 instead of a 3. So using the Shadowkeeper's Telemann, I think, is the way to go.
Yeah. And you know what? People just really wanted to use the Telemann.
It's such a cool model.
It's really hard to drop it out of the list now.
Yeah. My friend Joe actually gave me one for Christmas, and just like as a gift.
Wow.
And yeah, it's so awesome.
That is a true friend who gift you a Telemann.
He's seriously a great guy.
Yeah.
He's actually the one who inspired me to start Custodes, Joe Berend, or Papa Joe. He lives down in Virginia. He's a firefighter there, and like trains, or no, not Virginia. He lives in North Carolina, I think. But he trains kids like volunteer firefighters. Great guy.
Awesome.
An amazing painter, like unbelievable painter.
Yeah.
Yeah. So they also have the two abilities, the Lock Warden, and then the status. What is it? Status Oubliette.
Oubliette. Yeah.
What is it?
Oubliette. It's like French word for jail, I guess.
Status Oubliette. So those things like allow like something like a shield captain on Dawn Eagle. If you take both of those on a shield captain, just run into the characters, and he can easily kill a character or two, because it makes him so dangerous. The -1 to invul, that's so good. Like I don't think there's anything else in the game that does minus to invul.
Jinx.
Jinx, yeah. But that's on one unit. This is like an ability that the unit has.
Yeah. No,
like
that's cool.
So he can attack multiple different things with, say, like the Nurgle characters that all have the 5-up invul. Now they have a 6-up invul.
Yeah.
So we could probably take out 2 of those. Then we got Aquilin's Shield, which is another one that I'm playing around with. I'm probably going to take that one, because the changes to character blocking, like it's now a Lookout Sir instead of just a straight block, where you need to have those 3 models. So for the Custodes, that's really difficult. Like I think they should have done wounds or something to encourage elite armies, because that's really tough, especially for us. But I mean, everything else is easy for us now. So
yeah, we have to take some hits somewhere.
Yeah, but I think we're all figuring out ways to work around it, like with the patrol detachments. Now that we don't have to have the 3 HQ, or the 3 troops rather, like we don't need to do 3 units of 3. We can use a unit of 5 and a unit of 4 or something like that. But the Aquilin's Shield, just to be able to tank wounds for a character against something like in a bad scenario, that's really important to have that 1 CP stratagem. And their Relic and Warlord trait are pretty darn good as well. The half damage to the Warlord, and then -1 to wound with a Storm Shield.
Yeah.
Like you put both of those on something, it's not going to die.
Yeah, for my game this week, I wasn't going to play Shadowkeepers because the guy I'm playing doesn't run a lot of strength weapons that I last game I played him, I didn't use it at all, the -1 strength, because it didn't make a difference. But so I was going to play either Solar Watch or Aquilin's Shield, and that was really hard to decide. And I was like, okay, I'll just have to take turns, because it's like really hard to decide.
I don't think Aquilin's Shield is good for a full army. I think it's good for 1 detachment, so you can use like a few units just to block those characters, because you don't really it doesn't really benefit a full force to have that. It's just in certain scenarios you want to have access to that ability to do that. So I think that's one of the not one of the weaker ones. I think it's incredibly strong, especially because of the Lookout Sir rule now. But it's not what I'm going to build my whole army with.
Yeah.
Dreadhost. So Dreadhost is next, so we can talk about that. I don't. So I like the Warlord trait. I think the Stratagem is near useless. So I know everybody's been really happy about the 3d6 pick the highest 2, but so anybody who's listened to any of my interviews with you or online before knows the reason I play Custodes. Well, there's a lot of reasons I play Custodes, but the reason I love Custodes in this game is because Custodes eliminate variables so well. Everything's going to be hitting on 2s and rerolling 1s, and things are going to be usually wounding on 2s or 3s and rerolling 1s as well. And the what is it? The stratagem that I use all the time, Vexilla Teleport Homer.
Yeah.
The guarantee, almost, it's happened once to me that it didn't work. But now with re-rolling both dice, it's almost impossible not to miss that. So the reason I love Custodes so much on the battlefield is because there's so many guarantees. So you really know exactly what is going to happen when, and you don't just get left out there to get shot with your giant 500-point unit, or even small 200-point unit. You know,
Yeah.
like we don't have a unit of a 50-point unit of guardsmen that can go sit on an objective. Like if we're going to get shot, it's going to be our 160-point unit of 3 guard, which is like the cheapest we can go right now. Or I guess it's going to be 147 if you take the spheres, but
yeah,
you know how I feel about that. So Golden Light of the Moria is like it seems really good and really overpowered, or maybe not overpowered, but it seems really powerful. But I don't see it as that at all, because if you're gonna rely on that sort of charge, you're not, in my opinion, playing the army the right way, because that's such a huge risk to take. Even though it increases the possibility of doing it by a lot. I think it goes from, what was it, 44% to 72% or something like that with the reroll.
Yeah.
Which is, it seems like a lot, but then that's like three out of 4 games you're going to do it, but then that 1 out of 4 game, or some people are saying 77%. I don't know the math, because math is hard, so I just read whatever it is online. But even if it's 1 out of 5 times you're doing that, and you just have your unit of Wardens or Aquilon or Alaris or Bikes or whoever just came down from Deep Strike, or Telemann, whatever you want to deep strike, and comes down and you want to get into combat, you just get annihilated because you're just sitting there in the wrong position. So
yeah, I think so people, they started to play around with it and they started to fail those charges. And some people have even homered and then used that stratagem, which is 4 CP. And so, like, people have started to realize that if you are going to deep strike 3 units at the most, because you still got to be under that 50%, deep strike restriction. So it's usually 2 units, if maybe 2 in a character. If you're going to do that, then this is probably the best way to do it, if they're all coming in at one time, which they don't have to, by the way. But if you're only doing 1 unit, or you can even homer twice, 2 units, like 2 separate turns. So it's worth the extra CP, and now Trajan makes that really good. So people started to drop off the Dreadhost bandwagon because it still wasn't good enough to put, if you're running 10 Alaris Terminator, 700 points just like fail the charge. Like, that's just not good enough, right? Even if it's just 1 time out of 5. So
yeah, and you never know what your opponent's going to have too, because there's always like minuses to charge, all these things, like putting them out of position, like having the 3 inches to the screen, and then maybe there's something behind the screen that you really want to get to, and now we can't just get to the screen and go behind it. Like, we have to make the charge initially. That's a huge, like, I don't want to call it a nerf, but it's a huge change to the way that the game works, which negatively affects Custodes considerably coming out of Deep Strike. So having that 3 inches away from the screen or whatever's up front from the Vexilla is so much more important now than it ever has been. And the 3d6, because okay, so if it was a 3d6, all right, that's good. It's a 3d6, pick the 2 highest. So yeah. It's really not like I read it and I'm like, I kind of stay out of the groups and everything and the hubbub, so I don't really know what people are thinking about it, but I read it and continued flipping.
Yeah. If it was just 3d6 flat, obviously that's a different conversation. But yeah,
those people fail it all the time. I mean, it's not like even the 3d6 flat. I mean, like it's not a guarantee. It's never a guarantee.
Yeah. Oh, I've had Blood Angels players fail that all the time.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. What do you think of the 3 damage axe? It's really nice. If it was,
I think it's dope. I mean, like, it's a 3 damage axe, but like, who are you gonna put it on? Like,
Yeah.
are you going to take an Alaris cap or an Alaris captain just to take the axe? And we have so many better relics, um, like that keep our units alive and do different things to buff the whole army. Like Champion of the Imperium, I think is still necessary, even though we have the stratagem that allows us to heroically intervene. And then I've also been looking at Castellan's Mark. I really like that, especially for ninth, because because every time in eighth, it's like my setup is exactly the same. I'm going to set up the exact same way, no matter what anybody else does. I'm going to put my units next to objectives in like first floor blocking line of sight buildings, and sit there until I don't need to sit there, and then go out with the Vexilla. Like that's the strategy up until the combat, and the combat is where all the tactics and everything happens. But now, I mean, there's angles to play and a lot of different things to happen, and all the objectives on the maps, at least for what we have in this book. We don't have the GT book yet, but the maps that we have in this book, all the objectives are pretty close to the center. So we're not going to be able to sit like on the other side of a building that blocks line of sight until you get into it. Like we're not going to be able to sit there and hold objectives. So having the Castellan's Mark just to say, I'm going to deploy everything here, and then maybe I'm going to throw a unit over there last minute when they have that angle on me with a Knight Castellan or something, you know? So my plan was always don't get shot, and now that's a little bit harder to do. So the more things that I can do to maximize that potential of not getting shot, the better.
Yeah,
But
I was that relic definitely. The redeploy is super strong. I've obviously had it done against me many times, usually by Eldar, and being able to cover more ground but deploy safely, and have the option, it's certainly pretty strong.
yeah.
And of course we have all our 3+ invuln relics, 2 of them, which are still very important. So you find it hard to take other relics. All right. Next would be
Solar Watch.
Solar Watch, which is a very interesting one for sure.
You've had games on Solar Watch. I want to hear your opinion on Solar Watch before.
No, I haven't. So I'm playing a game tomorrow night with Solar Watch for the first time.
Oh, okay. I thought you played a different game with it.
No, last week I played Shadow Keepers and didn't end up using the strat at all.
Oh, really? Okay. Did you use the Relic of the Warlord trait?
I didn't use the Relic or the Warlord trait. Yeah.
All right.
Last week was my first ever game, and I can't say it was very tactically sound at all. I haven't played for 4 months. I was just spamming CP.
That happens. So I really like Solar Watch. I don't know how this will work in practice because it really depends on like what other people bring. But there's the possibility of taking a unit of I love this so much. Taking a unit of 10 bikes, going 21 inches up the board, rapid firing, and then charging on their turn with stooping dive. Because you can just go from this line all the way up to their deployment zone, 3 inches away from their deployment zone, murder their screens, and then they have to do something to react. You're going to hold so many objectives because you can stretch out like 5 bikes is pretty damn wide, even though you can't stretch out 10 anymore. But 5 bikes going like this way on the board.
Yeah,
that's a lot of distance. It's like this much, so you can definitely get between two of their objectives, hold those objectives because you're OPSEC, and then you can stooping dive on your turn. So there's a ton of stuff you can do with Solar Watch that's like crazy aggressive. And then you can add Guilliman into that. Like I heard a lot of people talking about adding Guilliman into that, and I think that's not a bad idea. I was thinking about doing like a more fun style list with Guilliman, 4 assassins, and like 10 Alaris like a year and a half ago before I started the Aquilon. But I think he's definitely viable for that buff, that advance. But he does +1 to advance and +1 to charge. So for the +1 to advance on the bikes, it's going to be 22 inches.
Yep.
And then +1 to charge when they're stooping dive. Like that's pretty badass.
Yeah. Yeah, and you challenge your opponent to kill a big unit of bikes with transhuman, and so that gets pretty.
Yeah, I mean, you're gonna throw Emperor's Allspice on them. You're gonna throw arcane genetic alchemy on them. Like you're gonna have the Vexilla with them, so they're -1 to hit still. Like you're gonna be running everything behind that. Like you got to make sure you have enough movement to get up there. That's a big thing. But
yeah,
like I think that would work really well.
I think you can't underestimate even just an extra inch of movement in this game. It's You'd be surprised how many times that's like, oh damn, I need an extra inch. It's like it's so key. Like the rapid fire shooting, like that's cool. Okay, sure, but that extra inch is important sometimes.
I think unless you're using bikes, the rapid fire isn't super great. No. Because it's still like, I mean, our shooting's not what we're here for. Like if we're going to use Terminators, which are going to be rapid firing, we're going to be deep striking them in, so we're not going to be advancing them unless we like really, really need to. But that's going to be really rare. That needs to happen.
Yeah.
I also love their stratagem. I love the Solar Watch stratagem because it's just like it's so nonsense. It's just it's just a middle finger.
That's the you get the extra CP if you kill a character thing, right? Is that the Solar Watch?
It's
Am I confused? I confused that, I think, with emissaries.
Use the stratagem in any phase when an enemy character is destroyed as a result of attack made. The next time your opponent wishes to use a stratagem, they must spend 1 extra CP to use that. That once every battle round. So it's like it's a huge like throwing salt in the wound and adding insult to injury.
Yeah, and everybody's so CP dependent these days, so that's always nice. It's kind of like a little mini game to like always have more CP than your opponent.
Yeah, because there's so much you can do with it now. With the changes to rerolls, I think it's huge for things like charges. Like obviously when you roll a 6 and a 1 and you need an 8, like that sucks because you can just re-roll the 1 into a 2 pretty easily. But if you roll double 1s, like in a scenario before where you'd just be royally screwed, now you definitely have a chance to rectify that. So I think it's better. It's better for the game overall, and it's a lot more concise as well versus like choosing one random dice versus because what is a reroll at that point? The way that it used to be.
Yeah. I really like how they clarified what you can reroll too, specifically with that. You can't just reroll anything now.
Yeah, which adds a level of like. Not necessarily extreme variability, but reality back to the game for things like Vect or things like Guilliman getting back up or a Knight getting back up. Whereas before you would have a 75% chance of having Guilliman getting back up for like 1 CP, like who cares about 1 CP, right? When you're trying to save your 400-point monster. And then things like Vect where it's like you roll a 1 and it's like, oh, well, who cares because I can just spend another CP to do it. And it's like it kind of takes a lot of that fun out of the game without making it so silly where like Sigmar where there's so many things that are crazy imbalanced that's up to chance.
Yeah.
So I like that change a lot.
Okay, man, lay it on us. Emissaries wisdom.
Emissaries. Okay. Emissaries are the best shield host. Like I don't know how we didn't pick up on this before. I know everything's changing to maximum of -1 and +1, but changing a 3-up to or a 2-up to a 3-up is such a huge shift, especially when we're rerolling 1s, that it can make or break attacks and shooting as well. Like having a 1 CP stratagem that ignores minuses to hit, minuses to wound, minuses to save, and cover, that's unbelievable for 1 CP. I think the stratagem should be 2 command points. I'm very glad it's 1 command point because we can use it so much more often in conjunction with our other amazing stratagems that are 1 and 2 command points.
There's going to be a lot more cover too in my few games I've played already.
And cover in combat. Let's not forget about that. Cover in combat is a thing now. Like there's a lot of things that are going to provide that. Like all those those little terrain pieces that people have with the tiny ruins and everything. Like that's going to be cover in combat. And I think they have the pipes, like all the AdMech pipes and stuff like that. Those all do cover in combat. Uh, it's huge. I mean, that's like I said, eliminating variance is the thing that Custodes does with their 2-up ballistic skill, 2-up weapon skill, 2-up armor, 3-up invul. Like all those things are so important to have be the way that they are. And then anytime that they get reduced, it's a huge blow to the way that the army works, because you're relying on, if I have 10 attacks, 10 of them are going to hit. If I have 32 attacks, 30 of them are going to hit. So those are the things that you need. Those are the things that the really easy math that allow our army to work so well, is because you know exactly what's going to happen when you're attacking, unless things go like crazy wrong. I mean, I don't know how many times I've had my unit of 9 wardens, which has a 55% chance to kill a knight with a 4++, like go into the knight with a 4++, should kill it 55% of the time. So sometimes, obviously, it's not. But I'm pretty sure like 4 out of 5 times that I've done that, it hasn't killed it. So it's like that's like the 4-up math that I just despise. So now we have Aquilon Terminators, wounding knights on 2s, and re-rolling 1s. Like that's wounding a knight on a 2. Can we talk about that for a second? Can we talk about the Aquilon versus Alaris debate before I continue emissaries? Because I've been waiting to go on this rant forever.
Okay, go on the rant.
I don't understand. I know this is directly to Brian. I know that the Alaris have so much capability to move around and to target characters. I think they're great. But the fact that you can have a unit of 6 Terminators have a 99% chance to kill 2 knights, like that is just unbelievable power. Hitting on 2s re-rolling, wounding on 2s re-rolling, -4 AP, D3 damage. You can kill an entire army of Leman Russes with 1 unit of Terminators in 1 round of combat. They just melt everything. Like, I'm usually a more like nuanced, like gamey person, so I love that. I love the ability of the Alaris to target characters and to consolidate wherever they want. But the raw power, sometimes, like with units like that, you need that raw power. We got to talk. We got to get both of us on at a different show to talk about this more, because I really want to hear like his rationale of the Alaris versus the Aquilon.
Yeah, I think it's just your philosophy in life, really. Like, nobody's arguing that Aquilon are not powerful, and the +1 to wound strat does help Alaris against the knight, but it's obviously not as good as wounding a knight on 2 if you're going to use the same amount of CP. And the -4 is really good, whereas you have to use the CP to get the axe to -3.
-2 with the axe as well. So it's like you either get no save, or they get a 5-up save, or a 6-up save. You know, it's a huge difference.
As I always say on the Discord, really your choices are meta dependent. So if you never play against knights or Leman Russ spams, then you probably do fine with Alaris. If you play against a lot of knights, then you're going to need Aquilon.
I'm going to look up the name of the stratagem, because I'm trying to do that more. Superior firing patterns. Yeah. Superior firing patterns on Aquilon versus Alaris. Like 8 shots from a heavy bolter per model, hitting on 2s, re-rolling. Come on.
So we actually mathed this out against a unit of 10 intercessors, and the Alaris actually kill more because they do 2 damage, even though they have less shots.
Intercessors. So their toughness 4. So they're going to be wounding on 4s anyway, versus wounding on 3s.
Well, they're going to transhuman. We're assuming they're transhumaning.
Oh, okay. So it seems like that math has been skewed. I don't know why. Why would anybody transhuman a unit of intercessors when they have so many other big things to use that on? Like, aren't Centurions the main focus for that versus intercessors?
Not anymore.
They get a points reduction or points.
Oh yes.
Oh yeah.
You're not going to see many Cents anymore.
What'd you say?
You're not going to see many Centurions anymore.
Yeah.
So okay, let's go back to emissaries.
Okay, emissaries.
Okay, so where were we? So we talked about the strat, which is obviously good, and I think a lot of people picked up on the emissary strat being very good, but they didn't quite like the other stuff as much. And initially, anyway, the Dread Host was like 3 good things versus, one good thing here, 1 good thing there. But obviously, we're past that stage of things now. But so, what do you think of the Warlock trait and the Relic?
I think I'm okay. So I'm trying to make it work because it has so much potential to be so good. Like a lot of what we struggle with right now and forever is having enough models, even though we are OPSEC, against things like, because I mean it's really hard to tell right now because we don't know what is going to happen with ninth and what the armies are going to be. So it's hard to tell if we need it, but like thinking from what we know, thinking about units of 30 Orc Boys, thinking about units of 30 Plague Bearers, thinking about units of, I don't know, Tyranids, anything that it's going to have a lot of models that are OPSEC. It's like we're always outmatched by that. But having the Vexilla, like the problem with the Vexilla Dominus, there's 2 problems. The first one is you have to take it on a Defensor instead of something that's useful. The second is you have to take it now. Like you have to write it in your list that this is the Vexilla that you have. This is the relic that's on your list for the entire event, not for battle.
Yeah.
So it's really hard to say, which actually makes the decision a little bit easier because before it's like we're going to take the Dominus and do absolutely nothing, or we're going to take the Defensor and do absolutely nothing, or we're just going to have the Dominus, like have to spend the CP for the Dominus, even though we don't really need it for this matchup. So now it's like you're buying the Dominus, which I think. So I think inherently it's incredible because it triples the amount of models that we have for holding objectives. And in a game where holding objectives is half of the game, it's huge, especially for a low model count army like ours. I think it's a huge thing for our army to have that buff to essentially have triple the amount of models that we actually have holding the objective. Whereas before it would be like, all right, we have a unit of 3 giant 11-foot custodian guard clad in their Aramite armor, and then a unit of 5 scouts holds this objectives because there's more of them. Like, how silly is that? But now with the Vexilla, there's the possibility of having them actually be what they're worth. And then I think you combine the 2. I think you combine Vexilla Dominus and Voice of the Emperor to have a 9-inch bubble.
Yeah.
I don't think there's really a use for Voice of the Emperor outside of that because you can't put it on Trajan. Otherwise, like to deck, because maybe you would put it on a -1 to hit banner. Maybe you put it on the +1 attack banner.
But that's the natural combo, right? Because you're running that guy with the Relic already as emissary, so you just put the Warlock trait on that guy, right? Like, that makes sense. On Trajan, it would be sweet, obviously, but, we can't do that. But that's sort of the natural build combo, those 2 things together. I think you're right. I think, like, we still have to see what's going to be out there. Hordes took a pretty big hit, and who knows, like, I can count the number of times that I've been out OPSEC'd. It's not been that many times, but there has been times.
I've been OPSEC'd. I mean, like, it's any time where there's any contention for an objective, I'll lose the objective. Like, because OPSEC is like, here's the thing with OPSEC, which I learned. I don't know if everybody knows this, because I certainly didn't for most of the games that I played, is that the way OPSEC works is that if there's 2 units that are OPSEC, doesn't matter how many models there are in each unit, OPSEC cancels out OPSEC, and then it goes to the amount of models that are within range of the objectives. So it's not like I have 5 OPSEC models, you only have 1 OPSEC model, and then 10 other models, so I win the objective because I have more OPSEC models. It's like OPSEC just cancels out OPSEC, and then it's the amount of models. So for us, we're not going to have that many models. We're never going to have that many models. So even if it's like a big unit of, I don't know, Aberrants or something that's going to be in the front attacking, I know they got hit again in GSC. It's kind of been out for a while, but it's still good. I mean, just because they're heavy points doesn't mean they're not going to be around. But anything that's going to run up and attack, that's like an elite unit or a fast attack unit that's not OPSEC. It still counts for the number of models, and usually there's going to be more models than we have in the Custodes.
Yeah, I think for sure.
I can't say it's perfect. but I'm trying to make it work. I think it has a lot of play.
Yeah, and I think for sure if you're going to be running kind of min guard units, and you're going to want them to do your heavy lifting in terms of objective control actions and stuff like that, then it's definitely worth considering, making them worth 9 people basically on that objective. So yeah, it's like, as you say, it's like you want to do some from here and some from here, but now detachments cost CP, and like, so you can't do too many different things, right? You have to make tough decisions.
Yeah, I mean that's the thing with the PA book, is that there's so much in it that's good for different types of play styles, which I love. Like, it's not like one thing is so incredibly overpowered that it invalidates all the other choices. And it's like, if you play Custodes, you have to play Terminators, you have to play bikes, you have to play mech. Like, there's none of that. It's all whatever you want to play, whatever you have been playing, it gets buffed. And I think that's beautiful, the way that they've written those rules to allow people to use whatever they want to use in the style that they want to use it.
Yeah, I mean, just on the Discord alone, sometimes I have to stop people when they get into some heated debates, and I'm like, yo, guys, everything is kind of good. Like if you got something you really want to play, then just play it, right? Like, like you don't have to. There's no big debate anymore. Like, if you really want something to work, then you can probably kind of make it work. So that's the joy of the situation we're in, which is amazing.
And again, I think you've been saying this a lot. Like, right now, we're building lists in a vacuum, so there's really no way to tell what's going to be good and what's not going to be good. Like, because we don't know what other armies are doing, we don't know what the power group of like Siegler, John, and Nick are doing, and Mike Perry are doing down in Florida, and what they're churning out of there, and like we don't know what's happening with the different armies that we're going to be up against, because we need to fundamentally we need to list build to combat what exists in the meta. Like, I think it's one thing. I think Custodes are very good at all comers, where we can handle hordes and we can handle elite units and we can handle mech. Obviously, we can't handle flyers unless we take bikes, but it doesn't seem like that's going to be an issue at all, because flyers there's no more air wing attachment at all, and they're only -1 to hit, so that's not a big deal. But I think we're in a really good place. I don't really. I know AdMac are very good at shooting, but like there's been a lot of things that have been really good at shooting that we've been able to work around before. So I think we're in a really good place to be a top army. I mean, I think we've been one of the best armies the whole time, and then there's always been the drawbacks. Like, I mean, I've only lost ever to Chaos, because it's our really difficult a really difficult matchup with the Mortal Wounds. I mean, I tied against Eldar Flyers at Nova and lost because it's Nova, so it always goes down to, there's no ties at Nova. It always goes down to how much models you have left. And Shuckman had one Warlock that escaped the Emperor's Vengeance and hid in the corner to keep me from getting that. And then that's all she wrote. So there's definitely been possibilities that the Custodes have had that have allowed us to be able to take care of anything that comes our way. So I've always thought we were a top tier army, but now with the different buffs to defense, with really the just astronomical swing of dice that we can have, because they can. I mean, if you stack all those things together, what's gonna hurt a unit?
Nothing.
You put those 4 CP on one unit, plus the -1 to hit banner, like plus the Vexilla Magnifica, you're going to be -1 to hit, only wounding on 4s. It's going to be no -1 or -2 AP, and you're not going to reroll a single thing.
Yeah, it's literally like an unkillable unit.
Yeah, like I don't see any army being able to shoot into a unit and really killing anything.
Yeah. Okay, let's move forward. What are your thoughts on, what do you like about 9th for us, and what don't you like about 9th? Maybe pick a couple of things of each.
Okay. I mean, it's really hard to tell because I don't want to compare it to eighth because it's just a different game now, and the reason it's a different game is because of the missions. They took eighth, the rule set of eighth, and made it so much better. Like everything about ninth is just better than eighth. There's there's nothing where it's like it's more concise, it's more streamlined. There's less like weird, wonky rules, variabilities that people can exploit and work around. It's a lot more of a all comers game versus eighth, which is like you show up to the wrong tournament in like the wrong part of town, and you have these that are just so insanely skewed. Like ninth is so balanced, just the way that it's set up, like with blast, with the changes to vehicles, with the changes to fallback, with the changes to coherency. There's nothing that's like, wait, what? This doesn't make any sense. Like it's a lot more of a battle game than it is a like I don't know proxy using these models for rules game. Like it seems a lot more thematic and realistic, which I love about Warhammer. Is like you can and I mean my favorite change of ninth is having 10 points to painting. That is like if you don't bring a painted army, you're not going to do as well competitively. Obviously, I think for beginners tournaments and things that they shouldn't use that rule to encourage people to just start playing and getting into it. But I mean, you bet your ass that every tournament's going to be employing that rule. Um, so that's wonderful. I think the changes for Custodes, it's like it's just a little bit of a shift between the way that I used to play and the way that the game is now, because I'm always going to be I'm still sitting on objectives. I'm still trying to hold objectives. I'm still trying to not die because I don't have any like it's the reason that Custodes worked so well for the missions before is because I was trying to not die anyway, because my things are like as invulnerable as resilient as they are, they still can get shot with 30 disintegrator cannons and the army's kaput, right? Um, so it doesn't really change the play style so much. It just encourages objective holding rather than having to worry about killing more, which I like. So I think it's more of a buff than anything to the way that Custodes play, because you're going to be playing the same way anyway. Where even if you're doing a mech list or a bike list, it's like you need to make sure your army doesn't get just sitting like it isn't just sitting there and getting shot, because we have a lot of power. Like we have a lot of power, but we don't have a lot of defense. Before now we do. Obviously, we have an incredible amount of defense, but for things like mech lists, we don't have as much defense at all, because now we can't fall back and shoot anymore. So I think the Caladius is definitely hit pretty hard, and that's too bad. Wink. It's not too bad. I hate the Caladius. I don't hate the Caladius. I think it's fun. I just think it's silly that everybody played it at the same time because it was the new hotness, and then it didn't even perform the way that we thought it would perform. Like that's the joke, where everybody brought their 3D printed Caladii to Nova, and only like 2 people made it to the top 16.
Yeah, so
it's like
yeah, it's because of the proximity of our book release and ninth edition, it's hard to separate the two, and it's kind of pointless to separate the two. You know, I don't think our book works very well in eighth actually at all, because we just didn't have enough CP to do it. But so we kind of take it one and all the same, like our book and ninth, kind of all these changes lumped together because they kind of work together. So as you say, I think it not only does our book give us the ability to play different ways than just the old school hide hammer, come out turn 3 and try and kill and survive, but with new missions and who knows what the meta is going to be, I think there's a lot of potential for us to do well in almost any kind of situation.
Yeah, for sure. I think that the changes to the terrain are I don't think it's better or worse. I think it's just a change. I mean, it is what it is. You know, it's not going to be. I think the fact that the fact that I could play, I can play and have played multiple games where all I do is sit in enclosed ruins for the entire game and win. Like that's not fun for anybody. Like I think it's cool that I can play that way, and it's something that we can figure out and learn how to win against. Because so the only reason I would do that is because I can't charge Tau because I would die immediately, and I can't interact with Eldar with 7 Eldar flyers. Those are the games that I did that with. So those things are no longer as prevalent, and those things were ridiculous. So to combat that ridiculous tactic in list building choice, I used a ridiculous tactic in game to beat it. So both of those things are gone. So it's not as silly as a game anymore. There were so many things in the 8th that were just like why would you do that? Like I understand you want to win, but having 7 planes is just not a fun thing to use. I think it's kind of cool because you're using your it's like if they weren't as good and oppressive and -3 to hit and then -2 to hit, like if everything wasn't -3, -2 to hit, it would be cool because it would be like, all right, sweet, you got planes across, like going across the board. That's your army. That's cool. That's a cool vibe. But then, since it's so like silly and oppressive and it's so hard to interact with, it's like it makes the game not enjoyable for a lot of people to play against in that meta.
Yeah.
So there's been a lot of things that have changed with 9th edition that in 8th edition, with 8th edition rules, with 8th edition armies, with 8th edition points, it's like, okay, that's a huge nerf, but it's not that way anymore. It's a totally different game. It's with a different list building structure, different points, different pluses and minuses. So I really can't say that it's a problem for us or a buff for us. I think it's just the way that the game is now. And I think the way that the game is now is still, like, I think before Marines happened, the game was the best shape it's ever been in. And I think now the game is the best shape it's ever been in.
Yeah. A little blip in the middle, but I think it's looking really, it's exciting. It's a really exciting time right now. And because we get to participate with a good army as opposed to being at the bottom. So that's great.
At the bottom. Come on.
Well,
who's at the bottom?
we're not all as good as you, Eric. So some of us have to get by. But
I think there are always ways to work around it. Like obviously, like the way that the army that I chose to make Custodes work is really weird to play. But I think we always had tools in the toolbox.
Yeah.
Whether it be bikes or mech or whatever. I mean, Custodes got second in the Nova Invitational. I mean, that's something. Like even though it was a Caladius army, like it's still Custodes. So
yeah.
Bikes on the London GT. I mean, there's always been a lot that's happened. I mean, Shane was in the top 16 in Nova 2018 with his bike army, and that was in the middle of Knights. I mean, obviously when Knights came out, the bikes got a lot worse, but it definitely did well. Carlos did well. I mean, there's always been tools in the toolbox.
Yeah.
But now it's like, oh wow.
Yeah.
We got all
the deluxe toolbox now.
Got a brand new set from Home Depot.
Okay, I got last question for you. What kind of list, or if you have a list already, that's cool. What's been percolating in the machine?
Oh man, so I'm keeping with my old list archetype. I don't know exactly what I'm going to do. There's 2 things that I have that I'm working on. One of them, I'm not going to spill the beans on everything. One of them involves Sisters of Silence. One of them involves both Aquilon and Alaris, and a lot of them. So I'm not sure which is going to work with the missions and with the meta and how everything's going to shape up, because it's really like, at this point we don't know what's going to happen. Like you've been saying all the time, it's like we need to play more. I think there are certain things where it's like, okay, we know it's not going to work. Like we don't need to play with everything and every combination with every shield host, but I think there's a lot of things that are super powerful, and a lot of ways that we can maximize our new book and our new rules and play in the new edition. So I encourage people to get out there and try different things, but you don't really need to. I don't think you need to try anything that you know is not going to work out just to see if it works out. But yeah, I think it's definitely going to be really similar to the way that I have been playing. With the points increase to Storm Shield Sword Guard, I was kind of disappointed about that because I was also floating around a list that involved a lot of Guardians.
Yeah.
Which I was really excited about because that would be the only way to make the Vexilla Dominus work very well. Just have I think I had 27 at one point, 27 Guardians with the Vexilla Dominus and then Vexilla Magnifica and characters, and then I think I had there were 4 Alaris or 4 Aquilon just to have a deep striking punchy unit. But the main staple of the army was just to sit there. But now that they're up, I think it's 4 points each.
Yep.
Yeah, that adds up,
It does. Yeah.
Yeah. So I have right now. I'm thinking 1 unit of 3 and 1 unit of 5. So I can have a unit of 3 to camp on a back objective and hold that, and then the unit of 5 to block for the characters as they go up the board and do what they do, and then Vexilla happens, and then also the Sister's Silence is definitely going to be. I think the points increase for them is maybe not unnecessary, but it's definitely a little bit upsetting. It's like they still are toughness 3 and 1 wound, even though they have a 3-up save. They have no invul. 12 points for one model that can get shot pretty quickly is a little come on.
Yeah.
You didn't need to do that.
Yeah.
But I'm almost entirely sure that I'm going to be using Inquisitor Greyfax. And I'm going to be using the Sisters of Silence special character model from Forge World to use this Greyfax, because I think that's a sick model, and I don't like the Greyfax model at all.
The Genetia Crawl, you mean?
I guess. I'm not sure what her name is.
Yeah, the whatever she's called, the Sister Champion or whatever her name is. I don't know.
Yeah. I was thinking of using Valea or just converting a Sisters of Silence to be her, with green stuff and everything. But I saw that model, I was like, oh, that makes it easier. But yeah, I mean, so Greyfax, let's see. So she can target Psychers, which is great. She's got the 3 damage Condemned Bolt Gun, Mastercrafted Condemned Bolt Gun. So it's only 2 shots at 12 inches, but still 3 damage against Psychers. It's definitely going to be good. It can kill a Warlock if one goes through. Everybody within 6 gets 10 leadership, which isn't a huge deal because we're Custodes. But losing a model automatically if you fail the leadership kind of sucks.
Yeah. And
then doing the 2+1 Deny the Witches. You have it. Oh, I'm just seeing this now because I'm behind on.
I've got the Genetia Crawl model. It's still shrink wrapped.
Oh man, I'm jealous. I'm very jealous. I need that. I need to get one for 2 weeks from now.
Yeah, I like Greyfax too. She went up 5 like they all did, and all those guys, the assassins, they all went up 5. Psychologically, it's still cheap. The Calexis is 100. That psychologically seems like a lot of points.
I don't like Calexis. I don't think they because it's only -2 to cast. There's no deny. And we have to think about what's happening right now with the way that the rules are working in tournament structure, where there's no variability anymore. You write a list and that's your list. You can't use the +1 deny Warlord trait anymore. You can't just add that in if you're facing demons. You can't just switch the Vexilla Magnifica to be able to deny the Witch if you're facing demons or Eldar. There's no, you probably wouldn't do it against Eldar, but against demons where they're no shooting. Like that's huge that you don't have that anymore. So you need to build something into your list that can have those good denies. And I think Greyfax really does that. The other thing, two things actually for Greyfax: no escape, Warlord trait for 1 CP.
Yep.
This Warlord can perform a heroic intervention within 6 instead of 3, and then added on to that, which is the real kicker, especially with the way that the rules are in 9th edition right now. When an enemy unit within 1 of this Warlord is chosen to fall back, you can roll 1d6. Unless any models in that unit have a minimum move characteristic, on a 4-up, that unit cannot fall back. So that happens after they use Desperate Breakout, not before. So you're going to spend 2 CP for Desperate Breakout. You're going to probably lose a model or 2, or maybe 5, depending on how big your unit is. And then on a 4-up, they can't fall back anyway. That's huge. That's like, I mean, whether it works, because it's not a 75% chance with a reroll anymore. That's only 50-50 because you can't CP it.
Yeah.
But that psychological kind of trickery with the classic Inquisitor style of psychological trickery, like that's huge, because what if you only have 2 or 3 CP left and it's like, all right, I need to get out because I need to be able to shoot this unit. But if I do and it doesn't work, then I'm totally dead, instead of like do I want to just play for points? And I know I'm not going to win this at this. It's a huge deterrent to be able to do all those things like Desperate Breakout. And we also have Tanglefoot Grenade, which happens at the beginning of the movement phase. So it's like, okay, I'm going to Tanglefoot you. So maybe if you Desperate Breakout, you can't even. You'll some of you, like most of your models, will die anyway. So it's a huge. That just adds on to the utility that we have to avoid people falling back now that we can't wrap as efficiently. Yeah. But I don't think the Desperate Breakout is really a huge thing.
No, I don't think so either.
I think it's great because it prohibits wrapping when you have like 5 different units like trying to fight, and it's like you can't get out. But it's only 1 unit that can use it. So basically you treat everything like you're playing orcs. Like they can jump away, so you have to be able to wrap 2 units anyway. So it's not as game breaking as people think. I think it's just a tool that everybody has access to. That's a necessary tool that for everybody to have access to. Yeah. I think it's a thing for the game.
It's 2 CP. That's not super cheap. You know, everybody's got the same amount of CP now, so everybody's running the same CP economy, and 2 CP is not cheap.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The other thing that Greyfax does is Terrify. Like, oh baby. Warp charge value of 6. Select 1 enemy unit within 18 invisible to the Psyker. Until the start of the next Psychic phase, subtract 1 from the leadership characteristic of the models in that unit, and the unit cannot fire Overwatch. So that's no grenade launcher stratagem that can only target infantry. This is against the Riptide. This is for the Riptide. That's the only reason I'm taking this power that I have for the entire tournament, in case I come up against Tau. Because 3 Riptides shooting at you is not good. 2 Riptides shooting at you is much better. Like, that is a... Okay, so I don't know... Maybe you can shed some light on this for me, because I'm not sure about the way that Overwatch works now. I know before that if the unit you're charging can't fire Overwatch, you can't greater good with the rest of the units around it. That was like a workaround that most people did not see and wasn't played with very often, because it was a weird nuance in the rules that wasn't usually picked up. But that's the way that it worked, where if you had that unit of Fire Warriors that couldn't fire Overwatch, you can charge the unit of Fire Warriors, and the Triptide cadre around it could not fire Overwatch with that.
So for most armies, except for Tau, Overwatch is a stratagem now. But
not much.
Tau still have the same Overwatch, basically.
But if the 1 unit that you're charging can't fire Overwatch, like it's a Overwatch rule. I'll have to look into it.
That's going to have to require another like FAQ at some point, given given ninth, and they did subtly change the for the greater good rule. So I haven't looked into it myself, but
Okay,
yeah,
we'll figure that out. But either way, denying Overwatch is so big. Even if it's not for Tau, something like a Knight Castellan, which went down in points. So I feel like if people are playing Knights, they're probably going to be playing the Castellan now, because it is still so good to have that much firepower. Now that it's not 750 points or whatever it was, I think it's back down to 600 something. So there's a lot of play with Great Backs for 90 points. Like it really fills a hole that we need filled. Same with Sisters of Silence, where we can just have those camp in the front and eat smites against things like Thousand Suns or Grey Knights or Demons or what have you. So there's a lot of play. There's a lot of play for the talents of the Emperor.
yeah, for sure. Okay, we're gonna go to questions now, Eric.
Sounds good.
Okay, there are a bunch of questions, but we may have answered a bunch of them already. So let's see. Last call. Okay. Hang on a second. Okay, here we go. Yeah, Alkaline versus Lars, we answered that already. And so when you mentioned you're going to use, some people don't know, you're going to stick to your old kind of list archetype. Do you mean like you're going to play a battalion?
No, I mean, the way that the list is structured is very much about not doing anything for the first turn, getting into position, holding objectives, and then using deep strike. Like deep striking half the army is basically the archetype.
Okay.
So hiding for a while, not getting shot, not engaging, like not really needing to do anything, and then deep striking using the Vexilla Magnifica to use the Vexilla Teleport Homer, getting in, attacking, wrapping, whatever needs to be done with that strategy of basically playing KG and then playing super aggressive.
Okay. So Swifty says that your list back then was what got him into Custodes in the first place. So there you go.
That's great.
So he's got he's got a number of questions for you. Do you like Wardens?
Of course I like Wardens. I always like Wardens. The only reason I don't want to take Wardens right now is because you have to pay the CP to deep strike them. And you have to pay that on the data sheet, or on the army roster, rather, instead of having the option to do that. Usually you would just deep strike them anyway, but we're going to be using CP for a lot of different things, and I'm trying to minimize how much CP I spend pre-game.
Yeah.
Because there's no way to change that if the structure of the list wants to change for your opponent.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I think they're still the most offensive unit that we have. I think they're 60 points each. Alaris are 70 points each, and Aquilon are 80 points each. So the Wardens are definitely the most offensive bang for your buck, but they die very quickly, even with the 6-up Feel No Pain, which I think is amazing. 6-up Feel No Pain is really slept on. But the fact that you have to spend the extra CP to put them into deep strike when you don't need to do that for the Terminators is the reason why I don't take them. But if you like the Wardens and you like the models, like, go for it.
So we didn't talk about this. Which captain commander trait would you use? I assume that you're spending that CP.
It really depends on how I want to use my captain. I'm not 100% sure yet. It's probably going to be Unstoppable Destroyer, because I love anything to do with movement. That's so good, just to be able to go, like, you charge into combat and then you just go somewhere else on an objective and then sit there, and then you have your 3-up invul and your 5-up Feel No Pain and you don't die. Like, there's a lot that can be done with that. It really depends on how you want to play. Like, if you're running 2 captains, I think it really behooves you to have one like the 3-up invul, the 5-up Feel No Pain, and then the 9 wounds, because a 5-up feel no pain with 9 wounds is so much better than a 5-up feel no pain with 7 wounds. Not to say that a 5-up feel no pain with 7 wounds is anything less than awesome, but it definitely maximizes that. So if you go all in on that super tanked shield captain, having those extra wounds is really big. But I really I love the movement stuff. I mean, it's just the way that I like to play the game. Let me see what other ones there are.
CP regen.
I love it. CP regen. So
this is where I told people you need to go play, because
it hurts my soul that I don't want to take it, because the way that I use where the heck is it? The way that I use my shield captain is he's not with the rest of the army. He goes off and he does his own thing. So if he needs to be in a position to do his own thing, he might be in a position where he has to die, which is probably what I'm going to be using him as, like keeping him alive. Because especially now with the character rules, there's no my army is over here, and then the shield captain is way over here on the other side of the board, but because my army's closer, you can't shoot him. If he's not within 3 inches of 3 or more models, he's just going to get shot at. So it's if I'm going to spend a CP that can't be refunded to take a ability that allows me to refund CP later in the game, especially when I'm going to be spending 2 CP on an extra patrol detachment, a CP on an extra relic, maybe a CP on an extra warlord trait, extra CP for the warlord trait for Greyfax. A lot of stuff is going to be spent pre-game, and then you're not going to be able to refund that. So using that CP on the 5-up to refund command points, even though you do have 12, it's for my list, it's not going to work. For other lists, holy shit, it's good.
Yeah.
If you want to take a Terminator captain, or even if you're taking 2 bike captains and you have 1 bike captain with the rest of your army, 1 bike captain to go solo and do some cool stuff, you take it on the bike captain that's with your army. Wow, it's good. If you're not spending all those CP pregame, yeah, it's really good. I think that's the best one for the right list, but for my list it doesn't work, which really breaks my heart.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. I think if you're gonna spend all your CP pregame, then the more CP you have to spend during the game, the more bang for your buck you're gonna get from 5-up regen. If you're gonna spend a lot, you sound like you're spending before, or Brian was doing 3 Victor of the Blood games or whatever, then the 5-up regen makes no sense for your type of army, right? So I think that's a great point. Okay, let's see.
Just touch on Victor of the Blood games real quick. I think that's definitely viable now, but I think it works only if you use a mono battalion. If you're doing what I'm doing, which is the double patrol, and you have to spend those 2 CP on the extra detachment, it's just not.
It's too much.
Not worth it. You're kind of back in the same position we were before, where it's it's so good because you can reroll whatever you need to reroll in that phase to keep your shield captain alive, or keep Trajan alive, but taking those 2 CP again pre-game when you go from 8 to 6 is
yeah.
If you go from 12 to 10, or if you go from 11 to 9 or 10 to 8, you really need 8. I think that's what you need to play the game of Custodes. You need 8 to start, then you're going to get your extra 5 as the game goes on, but you really need those 8.
Yeah. Okay, next question, spears. Guardian spears, other kinds of spears, Melta spears, Parathithite, whatever site spears. What do you think of all our various types of spears?
I love them now. I got to be honest. I never took them before, but the way that I'm playing, I'm not going to take them now because it's just not. It's not in the archetype of the list where you have those storm shields on everybody that's sitting there. But especially the Melta spears, isn't it only 6 more points? Aren't they 55 points each?
Yeah, something like that. They came down. I think they went up 1 point or something like that, or came down 1 point.
Yeah, I mean it's not much. It's not more expensive than because because there was a buff to, or not a buff, points increase for the normal guard, for the base guard. So it's 44 points for a base guard. Still 12 points for the Sword and Shield. Now it's only 5 points for a Guardian Spear. So it's 49 points for a Guardian Spear Guardian. Where now it's 55 points for a Melt-a-Spear Guardian. If you're going to take Guardians without Storm Shields, like, you should probably take the Melt-a-Spear, because that thing's pretty ridiculous. I mean, it's a melt-a-gun, you know? Like, you can advance and shoot with it. I mean, that's pretty cool. There's definitely a lot of play there. I'm probably going to be taking a spear on my Vexilla now instead of an axe, because it's half the points cost, and it's not like a huge change between Strength 6 and Strength 8. Like, usually it's going to be with like attacking thing. Like, the highest toughness it's going to be attacking is like a Demon Prince.
Yeah.
So of course I'd rather have a Strength 8, but it's not really worth the 5 points if I need the 5 points somewhere else. So we'll have to see.
Yeah.
But I think you've been playing like a big unit of guard, right?
I didn't in my last game, but tomorrow I'm playing eight Guardians with 3 shields.
With 3 shields. Okay. So yeah. What are... I mean, I guess, like, obviously it's like, yeah, you want to have that 3-up invul somewhere, but now with the changes to targeting, like, where, like, do you think that's worth it right now?
I don't know. That's what I hope to find out. I'd like to run less shields. I'm finding the balance is somewhere between 2 and 3 shields. But I haven't played a lot of games, right? So I'm trying to figure that out right now. But I love me some big Guardian units, you know? I just love these guys, and so we'll see how it turns out.
Cool. Yeah, keep me updated on that, because I'm. It used to be the 2 shield 1 spear combo, just to like keep the points down a bit, was really the way to go. But now that you can't switch around, it's like per phase. Like if you take, because now you don't allocate save, or what is it? You don't allocate wounds. Now you allocate like wounds to your model. Like you're going to take a saving throw on your model instead of you're going to take the wound that they dealt to you. I can't really explain it right now. I'm pretty tired, but I'm sorry.
Yeah.
But it's a fundamental change in the way that it's targeted, where once you decide this is the model that's going to take the damage, it's for the whole round of shooting until that model's dead. Not for the unit that's shooting at it. It's the whole shooting phase. So
yeah,
I don't really know. I don't know how it's going to work the way that we wish it did, but I think there's still something to be said about a few shields.
Okay, next big question is transports. The Land Raider is a popular vehicle right now. The Crone is not quite as popular. The Orion much less popular. But, you know, do you think that's a cool way to play for sure? Do you think it is going to be a competitive way of playing with 1 or 2 Land Raiders, or maybe even 3?
I think the las cannon is a terrible gun because the damage variance is so huge. Like, even when I was playing Marines, I didn't like las. Like, when I started playing again, like Warhammer again at the start of 8th edition, even when I was playing Marines, I'm like, I don't like las cannons because there's no way to tell what they're going to do. Like, I chose like to use 2 plasma cannons and 2 las cannons with my Devastators instead of all las cannons. So I mean, 300. What is it? 300 points now for a Land Raider for us.
It's 309, I think, for fully loaded.
For fully loaded with the hunter killer missile.
Yeah, and now you got the strat that makes your D6 roll like a melter rule, basically. It cuts the variance a little bit.
Yeah.
For one of your Land Raiders.
But then we have to spend CP for that to make it like not bad.
to make your transport not as bad. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, I think people should play that they want to play how they want to play. I don't think vehicles are going to be amazing right now. Because there's going to be so much that will do really well at killing vehicles, especially vehicles with no invul saves. Like if our Venerable Land Raider had a 5-up invul built into it, and we didn't have to take the Vixilla Defensor to make it have a 5-up invul, I'd say definitely an option that's worth considering. Um, I also don't like how Land Raiders look in gold. I know that's, but the Land Raider model is so old. I think it really only works in blue. But that's definitely just like 8-year-old me talking. So it's hard to say.
Yeah, and the Corona suffers with being 18 wounds, so can't make obscuring terrain any useful for it. So, and it's a pretty big
Yeah,
model, that thing. That's a chunky boy.
yeah. I don't think like I think if you're going to use a transport, you want to use the Land Raider because it's like it's a gun platform as well. The Cronus is not really that effective at anything other than transporting, and it's really not that effective at transporting because you can only transport 6 models. Um, is that correct? Six
Yeah,
models.
6 models. There's one more than the Land Raider, but it's still not very many guys.
Yeah. So what's the Orion? Can the Orion take 10?
The Orion can take a bunch, and I believe it takes a Dreadnought too.
Yeah. Yeah.
But just a normal Dreadnought, like you can't put the Telemon in the Dreadnought because that would be gross.
You maybe it's
Okay.
like 12 for the Orion. Is that right?
I think it's like 10 or 12 or something like that. It can carry a lot of guys. You can fit your whole army usually in there if you wanted to.
If you want to go like the transport route, I feel like Orion's the way to go because you can just throw it up the table and then have your whole army drop down the next turn. But yeah, I don't think we really need transports the way that our list works. So if you want to take something like a Land Raider, I think it's good to just like provide extra wounds. I've also been throwing around the idea of taking a Bastion, um, but I've yet to really explore that, so I don't have any advice or not
Yeah.
for against that. But I think it's like it kind of just popped in my head the other day. I'm like maybe this will work.
I think the Bastion took a huge points hike too. I can't remember. I have to look it up. But a lot of fortifications took points hikes.
That's a huge factor. I mean that's probably the biggest factor is like I'm never going to comment like I'm glad we have points now because now we can actually talk about Aquilon versus Alaris. Like I was planning on going into this conversation of saying like I'm not going to comment on it because I have no idea what the points are going to be and there's no point in talking about it if we don't know what the points are going to be.
Yeah.
Uh, yeah. So points are I've always said Custodes is like building a puzzle out of the or like trying to make a puzzle out of those giant pieces that you see in like preschools that are like this big. So you're trying to fit those giant pieces around in this puzzle, whereas like Imperial Guard had these like this 2,000 piece puzzle where they have these little tiny pieces and they can do whatever they want with their 4 points and 2 points and 1 point. And we have our cheapest model is 49 points. So
Yeah.
there's not really a way to get around a lot of things that are points costing because it's like we need what we need. If we have extra points, we can play with those points, but we need what we need, you know?
Yeah. It's always that painful. I'm 2 points over. Now I got to cut like a whole model.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Okay, I only have 2 more questions, Eric, and then we'll let you go. Is Trajan auto take now with the free stratagem? You have to try really hard not to take Trajan now.
I've got another rant, but I'm glad it's like swung back the other way. Like I don't understand how anybody ever said that Trajan wasn't an auto take. It's like we finally have CP, but then like we're still getting an extra D3 CP. Like I don't understand. And it's not even about that as much as it is about the reroll ones to wound. Like reroll ones to wound is indescribably valuable for a Custodes army where we're oftentimes wounding on 2s and 3s.
Yeah.
I think it was a bad shift in our history where anybody ever said that Trajan wasn't good or really an auto take. I
Yeah.
understand buying things without him and seeing how it works, but I think any list that you play Custodes where Trajan can actually be involved in the combat when he walks up the board on his giant legs is necessary. Like obviously, if it's a bike list and your bikes are going everywhere, you can't really keep up with Trajan unless you deep strike him in like turn 2 on where you need him. I think I mean, even if you were to do that, that's what you would do is you would just use Trajan, you would deep strike him wherever the bikes were in the middle, so the bikes could guard for him and then fight that way. But that was a very long-winded answer of yes, definitely you need to have Trajan.
Yeah, yeah. So I tried without Trajan because I just wanted to see what our CP economy would be like without the D3 back, and man, I did miss him last week. Paying 3 for the Homer really sucked, and a lot of time re-rolling ones to wound was I missed it. I really did notice that, especially on the Telemon, re-rolling the 1 to wound on the freaking Telemon. I missed that for sure.
And
So
he's cheap. I mean, like you're either going to take Trajan or you're going to take another bike captain, because now they're about the same points with the big points hike for the bike captain. But like he's so much better. I mean, the utility that he provides for the army is absolutely invaluable. And now that it's you get a stratagem for free.
so good.
Oh, and then there's the other thing I wanted to mention with that. Let me see what it's called. The Inquisitor stratagem, execution bombardment. That's 4 command points that you can now do for free. You know what this does?
I think I read it, but then I was like 4 CP, forget it.
Right. It's in the shooting phase. If an Inquisitor model from your army is on the battlefield, select 1 point on the battlefield anywhere. Doesn't need to be in view. Whatever. 1 point on the battlefield. Roll a d6 for each unit within 2d6 of that point, subtracting 1 from the result if the unit being rolled for is a character. On a 4-up, the unit being rolled for suffers d3 mortal wounds.
It's like a whole bunch of smites.
It's like a whole bunch of smites. It's like a whole bunch of... It's like super orbital bombardment.
Yeah.
So if you have the CP to do it in the match and it like really works out well... Like, because obviously I'm going to be using it for the teleport homer, but like I want to use it once, for free. Just like throw a wrench in the operation when somebody has like a castle of elite units. I think that's really good. Like if somebody has like MSU Custodes or something like that.
Okay, we're gonna end with a bang. Your thoughts on the Telemon?
Oh, I love the Telemon. There's nothing bad to be said about the Telemon.
This was a rhetorical question, by the way. Like we,
it's like it's such a beautiful model. Like it could be so much worse, and I wouldn't care. I think in the way that the Lookout Sir rules work right now, it's incredible that you can have this toughness 8, 16 wound, 2-up save, 4-up invul, taking half damage monster. Maybe even -1 strength if it's Shadow Keepers guarding for everybody. Like you don't have to worry about your characters getting shot at all unless they have like aircraft and they fly behind. But you just have him in the front. I like the one fist, one gun variant because like having him in combat is fun, even though he's not as good as other things in combat because he has only 4 attacks or 5 attacks, maybe 6 attacks if you do the double fist with the Imperius. But like, yeah, it does 4 damage, but you're only getting so many attacks.
It's just fun though. It's just fun.
And I'm so upset about the change to the gun from a few months ago, where they changed the range for the gun, because he would have been so much better before. Like if he had the 72-inch like strength 9 -3 damage gun still.
Would have been gross.
Yeah, because that definitely would have been like a big list archetype to play of the 3 Telemann if that were a thing. But now he can run up and shoot in combat and not have to worry about that. He doesn't have he never had Power of the Machine Spirit, so he always had to worry about standing still.
Yeah.
Now he doesn't really have to worry about standing still to get the -1. He still wants to shoot the bolt launcher twice, but if he needs to move, he can move without too much. So I like the Telemann a lot. I don't think it's going to fit in my list, but I'd love for it to fit in my list.
Well, we got the points, but we don't have the Forge World book yet, so maybe they've reversed a couple of those changes. Who knows?
Or even them out a little bit. Yeah, I mean, it's going to be really interesting to see what the Forge World book brings us, because that's still a big question mark where guns can be very different.
Yep.
And rules can be very different. Like if you're having a new book, like GW FAQ doesn't change the rules; they change the points. and they change how the rules work. But a new Forge World book, a new army book, that can change the rules of the unit. So I think it could be a big game changer for what ideas that we already have right now.
Yep.
Where it attains to the Telemann, where it attains to the what were the other bikes, the other fast attack bikes?
The Agamatus.
Agamatus, like
That
those
are
are
now 130 points.
costed, but if they have like 3 strength 9 -3 damage 3 shots each, it's like ooh. maybe that 120 points per model is not bad if you take a few of them. Probably not. It probably still is bad.
Well, it's still bad.
You never know what's going to happen.
Okay. Well, Erik, thank you very much for joining me tonight. That was a great chat as always.
Yeah, I had a great time. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, and I hope everybody watching enjoyed that and listening afterwards. So do stay tuned. Tomorrow night we have another game, my second game of night, a rematch against Necrons. He's tooling up his list, although all his stuff kind of got a bit more expensive yesterday. I'll be trying a brand new list, and we're going to have some fun tomorrow night. So join us tomorrow night. And thank you very much for joining us, Erik, and glad to see you part of the Discord community now. If you do want to join the Discord to chat all about Custodes, the link is right there. Just join it, and we'll be happy to see you guys there. So thanks very much, guys, and we'll see you later.